afternoon, everyone. Our topic, as mentioned, is predicting 2024 road ahead for Indian startups. So, before starting, I would like to give a small introduction of mine and would request my co-panelists to introduce them quickly. I'm a chartered accountant. I'm a full-time mother of two. My girl is 87 years old, my mother-in-law, and the boy is 17 years old in high school. I'm a chartered accountant and all right. I'm a chartered accountant and I am advising both on risk mitigation and management strategies and solutions. So over to you, my co-panelist, in case you can introduce yourself one by one.
All right, so my name is Laurent Samandari. I am the founder of a bakery and pastry chain which is located in India, which is called L'Opera. I have more as a business background as my training, and it has been now almost 15 years that I'm established in India, and I am a French national, but in terms of my heart, I'm feeling as part of this country right now, yes.
Hi everyone, very good afternoon. I'm Ankit Mehta. I'm the co-founder and CEO of IdeaForge. IdeaForge, if I may help everyone jog their memories, was the company whose early prototype was featured in the movie 3 Idiots all the way back in 2009. So we've been around for a while. We've in a way pioneered the drone space in our country, and we are building drones for defense and civil applications for our country and for the global markets.
Hi everybody, good afternoon. I'm Amit Sinha. I'm the co-founder of a company called Unnati. We are focused on the B2B Agri supply chain services and financial services firm. We too have been at it for the last 13 years, and we are backed by some of the leading agriculture sector companies like NABARD and Incofin. And we reach out to more than 60,000 retailers and traders across the 7 states, catering to more than 2.5 million farmers. Thank you.
Wonderful. Wonderful introduction. So when we talk about startups in India, we do understand that startups in India face many obstacles, such as lack of skilled labor, shortage of funds, stiff competition from the established businesses. At times, there are challenges like regulatory ambiguity, inadequate infrastructure, you would have seen, and difficulties in scaling up as well. So, keeping all these obstacles in mind, what are the emerging trends in the Indian startup ecosystem and how these trends are shaping the future of startup in India according to you? So, may I ask Amit to start with your insight?
So, very true. In fact, because we primarily work in villages and in very remote locations, all our centers, all our offices and people are, majority of them are in the, I would say, either in the villages or tier 3 towns. This whole shortage of skill set and things have always been a challenge. In fact, when we started off long back, many people would not even like to join companies like us, because they would like to join some larger company names and all. But thankfully things have been changing. Today, because of the whole explosion of information, people are happy to join and work with us. We have a 300-member team. But one critical thing, I think, which is very, very important from a startup's perspective, and I think this will be true for all the startups, because we are always trying to create something new which did not exist. So the idea is, how do you go ahead and get people who are ready to learn on the job, not only learn themselves, but also make you learn, because you are only as good as your last team member who is out there in the field or your customer, and they are the guys who are actually executing on ground. So the trick is to find people who are able to learn fast and educate you in the process, and also help you make processes which can then be replicated at a much larger scale.
Right. Ankit, do you want to add something to it?
Yeah, I think one of the trends that I'm observing is that there is a lot of deep tech activity that has started to happen in our country, and it's really heartening to note that people are no longer just looking to build software websites or services based solutions. People are looking at building hardware based solutions in our country. People are looking at building intellectual property in our own country, which is, I think, extremely important for a country like ours because as a service economy, uh, primarily we cannot build global value and scale and grow highly profitably and at a very accelerated pace without having our own brands, without having our own technology. And the dependence on the rest of the world is something which we have to progressively be a net contributor to as well. Why we will continue to consume a lot from the rest of the world. That's the nature of a global economy, but we will also have something to contribute back to the rest of the world. So I think that is a trend that I'm seeing increasingly change, and it's very, very heartening to note that.
Laurent, do you want to add?
So what I have seen in the startup ecosystem in India is that it's a very dynamic force which is happening in India. I think that right now there is 110,000 new companies that has started, which is technically now placing India to the third country where there have been the most important number of startups in the country. Now, from my understanding, I think that there is many ideas and many concepts, which is very interesting. But in some ways, my view is that I think entrepreneurs has also to consider to be doing new concepts, new ideas, not to be just copying what the others are doing, to have a real understanding of long-term views, to be established a new business in India, which is taking into consideration the stakeholders. Technically, they will have to do a nice business planning, new concept, new ideas, to be really facing the whole market. I think that India is a very important market by its own, so I have a less of an expertise on global markets, and I've been looking at only the possibility to be doing our business, which is more into agro and retail in India, which is a huge market itself. And of course, I think that we have to be well prepared, plan well in advance. Even in our company, we have just before really the starting point of our business already with interviews spending 100,000 US dollars just to be just elaborating the plan and to be looking at opening this business in India. And of course, I think that funding would be not only the only criteria. I think there is many solution in India to be founding the businesses, to be starting an activity in India, but the focus should be not only the financial perspective. I think that technically many consideration has to be taken into consideration, and looking also at a long-term business that is viable and that would be also taking care of all the different criteria in India.
That's precisely was my next question. What are the adaptive strategies or risk mitigation measures founders can take, considering all these emerging trends in the startup ecosystem? You have given your inputs. Ankit, do you want to add something about adaptive strategies or risk mitigation measures, or do you want to give any example of that in your company?
I think in general, if a business does not have differentiation that can be sustained, it is going to get disrupted. Like Laurent mentioned, there are a lot of people doing the same things. And if there is no differentiation in what you're offering, and that differentiation, if it is not protected, if it is not defensible, then it becomes a point of disruption. And therefore, the point that I was earlier making, that building intellectual property first businesses is in itself a defense mechanism that can prevent disruption from happening very easily. And I think that's an area which a lot of focus needs to go in, wherein we build differentiated solutions. There is a tendency, in our country and globally as well, that if it's an attractive area, everyone tries to get into it be it in the form of trading or in the form of creating a business with a lot of Me Too products. But the sustainability of a business has to be largely, if you look at all the large organizations in the world, they are all built on intellectual property that is highly defensible for all of them. So, that would be my broad thought.
So you mean innovation is required for long-term sustainability?
Yes, absolutely. Innovation, not just in services and the way we present things, but deep innovation in how we do things that can be protected, that cannot be replicated without probably paying you a tax for replicating it. So I think that is something which we have to understand is very, very critical. Today, large businesses are able to defend their turf because they own the intellectual property and they can defend it legally in the public, in the rest of the world.
In the courts, right, right. Thank you so much. Amit, do you want to add anything about adaptive strategies or risk mitigation measures, whether your company has taken, or you want to tell future founders about it?
So I think one of the most key things that we have always seen, and which is very important, is like, if you are loved by your customer, if your customer is ready to buy your service or product, every risk mitigation will follow. So if you are facing a crunch on your funding, if you have customers, then funding does not matter. The scale of the business might matter in the short term, but in the longer term it won't matter. Similarly, if your product or service is being bought by the customer, then minor fluctuations in the demand and supply and everything will be managed, as long as you have a demand for whatever you are offering. And that's I think the most key factor for any entrepreneur or any founder, is that his product, his service should be liked. Whatever audience he is targeting, if they like your product or service, then the risk mitigation will happen from whatever the environmental factors might be. They are all short term. They can always, the markets will change, the scenario will change. If your product and service is being bought by the customer and he's ready to pay for it, then everything else will fall into place.
Right, very well said. So you all will agree, whether we have high spirit or experiencing low moments, we resort to food, and that goes to your credit and your company's credit. Still, I would like to ask from you that how thorough market research and regulatory considerations impact a business.
Okay, so as I said at the beginning of Opera, we have been trying to look at the Indian market and our potential customers in India, and that has been very valuable for us, because in many ways it was part of, in every entrepreneur venture there is a part of risk. So we are trying to avoid all the risk which is taking in place, and trying to make this business successful. So in terms of the market research, we have been ongoing many research in terms of first the type of product and suppliers that we could find in India. We have been looking in our domain if even the concept would be a point of interest for India. And in many ways, we have been engaging these things to many people in India, which has been in some ways really valuable for us. And we still continue to be trying to get as maximum of information from the market itself. So it's not only as market studies, but it goes to people who are real professional, who have also the expertise of the Indian market, of their domain. So we have been associated with many stakeholders of Lopera, which are really professional and knows also the country. And of course, we are trying, as we are also involved in retail, we are trying the best to be finding the right spot, the right place where we could be high values of our product, of our businesses. And of course, as we are also into luxury retail, we cannot really take too much risk to be also losing some money. So we have really to take many consideration, even when we start even one store. So we have to see if we have the potential clients, the right places, that we make things in the right manner in terms of our cost control. So all these things has to be well prepared. It has to be well understanding, and technically, of course, there is many players in India who are really looking at all the elements for making a successful businesses. And of course, for getting a success, all these elements has to be really taken into consideration. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. Ankit, do you want to add something? A part of it you have already answered, but still, in case you want to add something, in addition to intellectual property, whether market research or regulatory scenario is impacting your business. You are coming from a completely unique area, I would say. So, what is your take on this?
So market research, it's a very interesting area. A lot of times we do have product teams and they are trying to understand what the customer wants. What we've found is that often it is not what the customer imagines they want. It is actually the customer's experience that matters more in market research. So I'll give you an example. When we started our company and we built our first drone, we used to pitch a drone to the end customer that could fly for about 30 odd minutes. And we would go to any customer of ours and we would tell them that we have a drone. They had never seen a drone before. But the first thing they will tell us is that it only flies for 30 minutes. I need minimum something that will fly for 60 minutes. So it's us, defending against their imagination. And the only thing we would tell them is that now that we are here, would you like to see it fly? And I don't think that we had a customer, wait for the demonstration to ever get over. We would never be able to fly our drone full 30 minutes in front of that customer. In 10, 12 minutes, he would say 30 minutes is okay, we'll go ahead and take this. So the user's experience is very, very critical as far as market research is concerned, because a lot of research done on users' imagination can lead you astray and make you build things which are not necessarily essential to be successful in the first iteration. Eventually, you have to catch up to the user's imagination, but it may not be necessary in the first iteration itself. So I think that is one part of what I wanted to talk about on market research. And of course, I think the regulatory environment is an essential factor for the growth of any business. It is important that a country should have a regulatory environment that looks to establish the domain first and regulate next.
Absolutely.
That sequence is very critical, because if you regulate before it becomes a market, you will basically miss out on a bus that might evolve somewhere else in the world, and then we will become net importers of that technology or that space. So
Absolutely.
I think that is something which is extremely critical, and it is something which we've experienced in our own domain as well. We have caught up on regulations as a country as far as drones are concerned, and now we have a very, very adoption friendly and a very aggressive domain where our own stated mission is to become the drone hub of the world as a country, which was not something which we started off with. We actually went through a full cycle of recovery as far as drones are concerned. We were ignored first, we were banned next, we were then grudgingly acknowledged that we exist, but we had a very, very unwieldy regulation at that time. And then now we have a regulation that is embracing the technology and wanting to accelerate its adoption. So I think regulations do play a very important part, but they need to be measured for getting things to a scale first.
Very well said. Amit, do you want to add any experience into this domain, market research as well as regulatory environment?
Sure. So, as Ankit very rightly said, I believe that the first at least 2 to 3 iterations of whatever the product or service might be can't be dependent on the market research, because you will always get misleading cues from your customer who haven't experienced what you're trying to do. So it has to be based on your experience, your understanding of the market and stuff that you build, and gradually get into the market research mode, which is more, I would say, for evolution of features rather than the core product itself. On the regulatory front, I'll I'm coming from an industry which is anyway very, very regulated, both from an agri and financial services perspective. It's very heavily regulated right up to a district level. So we work in an environment where we have to cater right from local district level regulation to pan India regulations. Okay. And my view there is that few things that are very critical. One is one should understand the core agenda of the regulation itself. Okay, why it is being done, and that would help us as an entrepreneur or as a founder to navigate that much better. And many times, especially for industries like us, which are ages old and which has regulations going up to the British era, it's always important to first get on the right side of the regulation and then try to change it, rather than trying to change it from the outside.
Absolutely.
And that's because then you get an audience that okay, ye kuch kar to raha hai, as per the current regulations. Now let's look at improvements. And I think that is what good part is. A lot of those regulations have been evolving very fast as scenarios have been changing. And many times, these regulations also make you build in a way that it becomes very, very long-term sustainable, because some of these regulations, if they were understood right and implemented in the right spirit, it will actually also help you mitigate a lot of risks which otherwise might crop up. Okay, and from that perspective, it is very important to handle it upfront and sort of build your solutions around that.
Perfect. Absolutely. So now let's go global. I understand that two of the companies here are India centric. So question will directly go to Ankit. So before asking you the question, I want to share some data points that India ranks 4th in the world in the number of scale-ups or startups that have received more than 50 million US dollar of disclosed VC funding. So it is disclosed VC funding in 2023. And ahead of India is, of course, US, China, and UK. And however, we have declined from 3rd position to 4th position in 2023 because we had 3rd spot in both 2021 and 22. So considering all these data points and beyond that, my question is, what are the challenges faced by Indian startups in the global market? Because you already have your office in US, Ankit, as we were discussing. So in case you can throw some light on that.
Yeah, I think when we look at global expansion, I think it's very important to localize and understand the local conditions. Like I mentioned about experience here in India and having a user use the product and then give feedback. I think for us, the journey right now is at that stage where we have systems there in the US that we want our customers to experience, give us feedback of how we can build it such that we can solve the challenges that they are facing with the technology that we have built in our conditions over here locally. What is great about India is that when it comes to physical products, particularly since we are serving both defense and civil customers, we have to build products that can operate anywhere in our country. And when I say anywhere in our country, I'm talking about operating at more than 6,000 meters takeoff altitude to operating in negative 30, 40 degree centigrade temperatures to operating in the deserts of Rajasthan at plus 55 degrees.
So our products are also resilient now.
So essentially that level of variety of environmental conditions that you have to design for is actually a benefit for Indian companies who are building for some of these applications. And if we can do that well, we can hope to operate anywhere else in the world, but the context of how they will get used has to be learned locally, which is what we are doing at this point in time. And most companies will have that challenge where they'll have to understand the local dynamics of what those geographies need so that they can tailor their products for those users.
Absolutely. Before we let audience ask certain questions from our panelist, one last question. According to you, what is the success parameter for founders and startups in 2024, in case you can throw some light, Laurent? Yeah. And this question is for everybody before we open the question.
Well, I think that in every successful business, of course, there is at first sight an entrepreneur who has a vision, who wants of course, to introduce something which is, from my understanding, something which is new, that can be serving the whole society, that could be also as a new concept that will be also changing the market. So I think as an entrepreneur, it's really the initial concept that has to be of a new concept. Of course, we talk about the way we implement a project, but at first sight there is an idea, and of course this idea shouldn't be something that, from my understanding, is something that everyone does. And I think that this is the concept. Now, of course, there is also the way you implement your ideas to get also the best of people around you who will be also working for this initial concept. Of course, in our company, we have been trying also to bring numbers of values. So in terms of gender equality, transparency, spirit of service, because we are also in retail and we have also numbers of clients which are really open to everyone. So we are really into this retail business. So I think, as I said, I think the concept initially has to be new. It has to be an innovation at itself. We have also to get the implementation by competent co-shareholders, employees, and of course, in some ways, the values that you bring, in some ways, have to be something that could be also as a change for the entire market where you are working on.
Absolutely.
And yes, so that's few elements. Yes.
Absolutely. Amit, you want to add something?
So I think looking at the current scenario and the way things are, especially on the funding front and stuff, our revenue generating and sustainable, financially sustainable business is the most critical thing to be built. And the only way that can be built is if you are building along with your customers, whether it is a B2B, B2C, whatever kind of a business you are. If your customer is buying it, ready to pay for it, you would have built a sustainable business at whatever scale. So the ultimate and the only truth is that your customer loves your product or service, and that is what will make it a sustainable good business.
Absolutely. Ankit?
So I think 2024, and if you have to take any lesson from 2023, then the lesson would be that the focus has to shift from valuation to creating value. And I think that's going to be the focus, and that's something that we should all embrace and focus really hard on, because I think that's how businesses, like Amit mentioned, will end up creating lasting impact on the society.
True, true. So I totally agree that rather than having deep pockets, in case we can have our own revenue generating businesses with sustainability as a part of or maybe one element of value system of the entire enterprise, then we can actually create a mark and have our add worth to the Indian economy, because we are heading towards 3 trillion. That's the goal, and though we have slipped down on the global scenario in the ranking, but definitely we are doing really well. I have a few more data points. I think I have missed somewhere those data points. Sure, I got that. If we look at 2023, India startup ecosystem, though we ranked 4th globally, we boast over 99,000 recognized startups, which is quite a huge number. 108 unicorns valued at US dollar 340.80 billion. So that's not a small number when it comes to revenue generating and sustainability and creating new startup ecosystem in India. So with that, our question answer session starts. In case anybody from the audience would like to ask any question, could you please help her with the mic? Anybody? We have extra mic here.
Yeah, hi. So my question is to Mr. Ankit Mehta. You talked about that you have started with new drones, And by the way, I'm about to buy your shares, so that's there. How do you protect it? Because I started my business by the name of Zip Out, years back, and we were the first market movers, and we were in service industry, and we really made a mark, like media coverages, and everybody was buying our products, so there was no problem in that. But somehow I was not able to protect, the people who were delivering it. So it actually backfired in the sense that because it was a service industry, I had to empower them to, train further. But then, of course, that poaching and all the things happened. I'm not regretting, it's a lesson. So I want to know, how do you protect? How do you protect what you have created and you have empowered, your team to deliver?
So I think one thing that I have realized is that while I do speak about IP and intellectual property being a very important defense, I think there is no defense against the market unless we continue to innovate. I think the fact that when we started IdeaForge, we were very clear that when we build something, we have to not just build local best, but we have to always endeavor to build global best solutions. And maintaining that over years and making sure that at every point in time you have something that is at the top of the line and innovative that the customers are aspiring to get, but is only available with your capabilities included in the package. I think that's been our core focus in terms of building differentiation. If I were to sort of broadly put it in words for us at IdeaForge, we reiterate this everywhere, that we look at three core areas of improving our products every iteration. One is performance, of how much it can do for customer every time it can go up, every time it goes up in the air. Reliability, which is ensuring that that performance can be delivered, one, in varied conditions, and two, a many number of times, so that they can get the lowest cost of ownership. And autonomy, ensuring that the cognitive burden is the lowest possible and you don't have to deploy the most expensive resource or the most skilled resource every time. In every iteration, you keep making sure that the skill needed or the cognitive load on the operator is the lowest, progressively leading to greater autonomy and more scale for the end user, and thereby lower cost as well, because the operator cost can then therefore be lower. So those are the things that we have iterated on year. We continue to do so, and ultimately we do it to make sure that we are driving the adoption of this technology. We are making sure that every iteration is leading to the user wanting to deploy this more and more, making sure that they are benefiting from what we are offering to the market. So to give you a very small example of how we track it, our customers have flown over 400,000 missions on our drones. Almost every 5 minutes an IdeaForge drone takes off to do either a surveillance or a mapping mission in the country. So we keep tracking utilization and making sure that we are doing something which is effective for them.
Thank you.
Wonderful. I hope this answers your question.
In a way, it does. I do have a follow-up there if we have time. So you were saying that you protect your IP and all by keeping it to yourself, like certain skill sets or certain technology, you keep it to yourself. You don't pass it on, right?
So basically patents. We have filed over 66 patents globally. We have 28 of them granted in our favor. So basically people can't copy our technology and get away with it in that broad sense. So that's the biggest defense. Then there are certain things that you prevent people from accessing because they are embedded in your software code. So there are ways in which you can protect your technology by being innovative, by going and recognizing the intellectual property that you've embedded there. In services, of course, there will have to be different ways in which we can protect the concept, but there are enough ways in which you can protect software concepts, at least, is what I understand.
So there are ways of risk mitigation measures we were talking about, and you can always connect with any one of us after this session to have more light or insight on those aspects. Anybody else would like to ask any question? So I think that's it. We are on time. One more question. Could you please hit the person?
Hi everyone, I'm Kapil Bhargav. I have a very small question, if anybody can answer. How do you see IoT architecture implementation and IR4 as well for for the future, 2024 and onwards? Thank you.
Amit, do you want to take this question?
Yeah, so on the IoT front, I can tell you from how it has been in the agriculture sector and all. In the agriculture sector, there are a large number of IoT solutions that have come up. We are at a stage where it still needs to be distributed at a wide level, okay, at a very, very wide level, because of the nature of the agriculture industry in the country. It's smallholder farmers. So somewhere there has to be a conversion from the tech solution to the business model, because our business models have to be oriented to small farmer adaptation, which means that services will become a critical part of its adaptation. So there have been solutions. None of them have become yet very widely distributed. And I think 24 and 25 would be the years when a lot of those business models will evolve to make it a wider, more adaptable solution, rather than a particular technology aspect which might would have proven in pilot, but maybe not expanded yet at a very wide level.
But if we talk about the tier 3 and tier 4 cities, so majority people are not educated much. So don't you think that digital transformation is going to be a difficult, it is not a walk in the park. So what kind of architecture can be designed, and the slide or the transition can be easily designed or architecture? Thanks.
So my experience today, there is very little difference between tier 1 and tier 3, tier 4 or a village as far as digital adoption is concerned. I can tell you there people in rural areas are much more evolved than us in terms of their usage, because they have the time and energy to go ahead and devote to the solution. So adoption is not a problem. What needs to be done is a solution which will appeal to them. See, if a solution appeals to anybody, today you go anywhere, you will see Paytm being adopted, people buying from Amazon, Flipkart, everything. Everybody knows everything. It's not no more a market. People using all kinds of making reels and stuff. So just think of it, if they're able to use the digital apps for their entertainment purposes, which is normally the first adoption anyway for any industry. If people can use it for entertainment, they can use it for their really important utilitarian needs also. What we need to do is, as entrepreneurs, build solutions which will appeal and add value to them. Then people will go ahead and adopt it. The architecture and adoption is not a challenge. The right solution at the right price is the challenge which need to solve.
Absolutely.
Yes, thanks a lot.
Absolutely. And when it comes to adoption, I want to give you a small example. I started using UPI because my house help asked me to pay her salary through UPI rather than cash, and she is from tier 3 city. So as rightly said by Amit, when it is quite interesting.
I'll give you another example of drone, okay?
Okay.
And this was a very interesting thing. We were trying to implement drone in agriculture field and doing our own experiments. And we had one Delhi guy going deep into Sajapur, एक sugarcane के 4 acre के farm पे. We said, let's do a drone spray. You know where we failed? We failed in the fact that land had to be mapped for the drone to operate and spray in that particular area. Just think of it, 45 degrees centigrade summer, a guy walks around the farm. A 4 acre farm would be a couple of kilometers actually of walking. 2-3 दिन में वो भाग गया वहाँ से. So the challenge was not that the farmer liked it. He vouched for it, his kids and everybody was so happy that we don't have to spray by hand. But the challenge was somewhere else in terms of making a solution which would not make somebody walk across the farm to go ahead and do that. So there are ways to resolve that, and that is what we need to learn and deliver.
I think, okay, one last question, then we have to wrap up this session with the mic.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Harsharan Kohli and I represent a freight forwarding and warehousing company. So my observation or my question is regarding the most important asset, which is the human manpower basically. And we talk a lot about the health of the employees, and nowadays mental health is, I think, that is the core thing. And of course, there are job pressures which are bound to be there, and also I think some politics within the employees has also crept into the corporate world. So I would just ask you a simple question, that how you ensure that you keep your employees motivated and they always are in the right frame of mind, they're always motivated to deliver the best.
So I would like to start answering this question, and then they can add with their real time. So when we talk about risk mitigation measures and sustainable businesses, so one aspect is employee health, because without employees, if it is labor intensive or employee intensive industry, we won't be able to work. So when we talk about sustainable businesses, this is essential part of it. Now, how do we do that? In case any one of you would like to add any example, do you want to?
If I am not wrong, in our company we have put in place also a program where we could also provide health insurance to our employees. So of course, beside all the regulatory and all the things that you have to compile for your employees, we have been also associated with some private health companies where we could have where we were providing these health protection to our employees. And of course, it was what we could do, but it was covering many of the health issues that some employees could face if there is an accident. Also, we are also involved in F&B, so sometimes these things happen also in our production center in kitchen. So we, as the company, we have been trying to provide a necessary health protection solution for the employees. Of course, it has some impact for the company, but in the long term, we have been able also to restrain many of our employees in the company where they were having such solution and services from the company itself.
Wonderful. And when you talk about politics and other stuff which is impacting employee health, so I would like to say only one thing, that you need to have you have to set right tone at the top, and transparent processes, making a more process oriented business rather than people dependent processes, which will definitely curb those corporate politics which normally impact employees' health. With this, I think our times is up, and thank you so much, Laurent, Ankit, and Amit, for your valuable time and inputs. I would request everybody to please give a big round of applause. Thank you so much.